And in order for us to rewire mastery, if we weren't born with it, none of us was born with it, but each of us can learn a brand new skill. It is those things that have to turn into repetition. And repetition over time turns into habits, and habits over time turns into actions, and actions leads to results.
Who's this? Oh, you're an entrepreneur? Oh, you're a real estate investor. Oh, you're trying to learn from those who did it. Well, come into the lab then. Put your white coat on, gloves on, notepad, and let's build, y'all.
Experimentation. What's going on? Your host, Ruben here. My goodness, has it been a crazy 2 weeks since we were last here in the lab together? In the last 2 weeks, we got a chance to host a two-door strategy retreat in Park City, Utah, with some investors, with my partner, Dr. Rachel Gainsbrugh, seasoned investors, new investors, some of my students, some of Rachel's students, and some new partners and some new students who all came together in one place, invested in themselves, rightfully so, as you should, to come in to get the insights in person. And I find that to be so critical, because I do feel that in order for you to take action, you must have a new level of information that you can then apply, but then you must be able to know how to strategically apply it. And these are the ways that you're able to do that: by learning from others who have done so, by getting proximity to those who have done what you want to do, and being surrounded by like minded cohort of individuals who are trying to do the same thing. There is power in that. There's power in the connection. There's power being in the physical and the present, just like there's power in being able to listen to these insights the exact same way you are listening right now. It all starts with new action. So I got a chance to speak at the event with my just an amazing group of speakers as well. I got a chance to MC the event and co-host it with Dr. Rachel Gainsbrugh and our team, and it was just so fulfilling to do. But at the same time, my goal was to be ears out and boots on the ground to understand the pain points that individuals are facing. Because, as you know, one of my 10x goals is to build the number one midterm rental insurance network in the nation. And in order for me to do that, I need to understand the pain point that these that homeowners who are trying to get into midterm rental insurance space are facing, the questions that they're asking, the technical questions that they have, the challenges, the limiting beliefs, so that we can, squash those limiting beliefs, answer those questions, and at the same time be able to give them a tool on our network. And whether it's with our network or without our network, give them the tools to be able to land these midterm rental insurance contracts to help increase occupancy, profitability, and while doing so, by helping displaced families. So everybody wins. And so part of the retreat that we went to, the midterm rental wealth retreat that we had in Park City, Utah, was the main theme was how to get more, right, revenue, profit with less, right? This was not about how do we scale to 100 units. This was how do we use 2 units, or the two-door strategy, to literally be able to build that financial freedom that we can, because in this space we can have the ability to have high margins. So now, while there was folks who were in there with maybe their first property, their maybe they had 10 properties, excuse me. Maybe they had, some of them had 20 plus, some of them had their first, some of them are from the short-term rental world and they were looking to pivot into midterm rentals. The questions are the same. The questions were the same. I think a lot of individuals struggle with that question of how do we get these midterm rental bookings, how do we make sure that we get them consistently, where do we even find them, how do I even implement this strategy. Now, for those of you who have been part of the workshop that Rachel and I have hosted, you'll know, for some of you who are on my newsletter, and if you're not, make sure you go ahead and grab the midterm rental insurance blueprint. at experimentrealestate.com, because I do give a lot of those insights for free in my newsletter, and as well on the podcast. And while there was a lot of insights, one of the things that I focused on that I think is really important is the working on your paradigm first, and working on the code that's in between your ears, and that's your brain, right? And one of the things that I talked about when we were on site was, how often, do you get an update on your phone, right? And we had this ongoing joke, because there was a few people in the crowd who were like, "Well, I get updates all the time. Phenomenal." That was like 90%. And then I did give a hard time to those few 10% who are like, "Oh, I don't get the updates. I don't trust them." I'm like, "Well, first of all, let's get the cat out of the bag, and just say that, if you're worried about your information being out there, it's out there. By the way, our phones are listening to us. So just throw in the white towel, get the updates, right? Like, don't even sweat it." But the point I was trying to make is not about the updates. It's about, while your phone, which I would think is probably one of the most powerful tools that you have in your hand, right? It used to take an entire room to be able to have the processing power that these phones now have, right? From being able to Google, from being able to call, the who, not how. It all starts with the phone. But we actually have a more powerful tool that we don't actually optimize, and update very often. And that tool is, as you may anticipate, as you probably figure where I'm going to go, is the brain. It's the mind, right? This is one of the most powerful tools that we have, because the mind is able to uh, be the core GPS to where we want to go. But a lot of the times, we might just come to these conferences or listen to a podcast, and we hear new information, but unfortunately, we don't have the right coding to be able to implement this new information. Now, this new coding is based on what is a paradigm. Now, if you're not familiar with what a paradigm is, it's essentially, it's a multitude of ideas that are fixed in your subconscious mind, and ideas fixed in our subconscious minds turn then into habits, and a habit is an idea that expresses itself without conscious thought, which is aka driving. If you drive, you probably drive subconsciously, right? You get to point A to point B, you can have a full conversation, you can be on the phone, you can have someone talking on, you can just do this like it's your job, right? So what's really critical is, that's that's built in our software, right? So we do these things without even thinking about it, the exact same way you brush your teeth. Today I was like, oh, I brushed my teeth. I was in the middle of thinking deeply, and I was like, did I brush my teeth? I'm like, oh yeah, I did it. It was just so second nature that I didn't even need to think about it, right? So those are the things that we want to make sure we work on as we get these new ideas and insights, because the biggest thing that I hear often at some of these retreats or one-on-one coaching calls or DMs is the paradigm shift. It comes from the software, where when you have new information and it's completely new and you don't believe in it, it's because you don't a um have the right wiring to be able to do it, right? I'll give you an example, right? And I like to use this example. um One of the things that I always say is, if you were to tell, for those of you in the short term rental space, you'll resonate with this. If you were to ask a homeowner, traditional renter, works with traditional rent, and you were to ask, or they were to ask, yeah, you were to ask him, hey, uh, do you think, let me actually flip the script. If he or she was to ask you, hey, how can you guarantee, or how can you feel so comfortable to do Airbnb? Like, what if you don't get a booking, right? That question in itself comes from a lack of belief in and understanding. One is, understanding is one thing. If you understand that your occupancy rate doesn't need to be 100% in order for you to be able to maximize and 3x the same kind of traditional rent that you would get, that's a lack of gap in understanding. The second part is then believing. And the belief is, well, okay, I hear you that you have to have, um, you know, you stand up a furnished accommodation and you set it up and then you're able to get bookings, but like what if the bookings don't come? Well, then that's a fundamental disconnect between being properly optimized in order to get those, because once you properly optimize, right, then you're able to not guarantee, but you're able to guarantee that you're properly optimized so that the bookings will come. Now, there's nowhere anywhere written that says that if you do all these things that you're guaranteed you will get bookings. But part of it is the belief system that you need to have in order to be able to move forward with that leap of faith that the bookings will come once you do what it takes to get there. So I think part of it is having new information, and then the other part of it is having the belief in understanding what that once you have this new information, you apply it, you have to believe that it will work. And part of that needs to happen with a paradigm shift, because these are, you're fundamentally a traditional investor, and so you do long-term rentals, and that's what you know, that's what you're used to, you can do it in your sleep. But until you change that paradigm and understand that there's another opportunity out there, like short-term rental, midterm rental, insurance contracts, right, you will not even see the opportunities, you will not be open to these opportunities, and most importantly, you will miss out on these opportunities. So part of the constant battle in your lab, and when I say in your lab, it's in your life, is to constantly be open to learning new information. And then once you have that new information, understanding how you can shift your paradigm, right? Understanding how to reprogram yourself so that you can then believe in the opportunities and then attract those opportunities. So then the next question might be like, well, Ruben, how do I change my paradigm? And that comes with repetition, right? That's the only way to change your paradigm. That's why you go to these conferences. That's why you listen to these episodes. That's why you have to write down your goals very clearly. That's why you have to then take action, because once you wire yourself to rewire the way you've always done things, right? Because our mind is meant to preserve us with energy and efficiency and homeostasis, etc. So it wants to do the same thing all the time without even thinking, right? That's what habits are. But in order for you to change new habits, you have to then very consciously be clear to then be able to tap into the subconscious mind. And so it's very important that you get new information, but then don't just, you know, go to a retreat, apply the information. You know, right? How often have we gone to a retreat, right, or a conference? We've heard great information, and then we go back home and do the exact same thing we're doing, because it's in our subconscious mind to do so. It's in our habits to do so. So, in order for you to rewire and change that code and get that software update, you then have to take go out of your way to be able to shift and and go out of your way and apply those strategies every single day, right? You have to rewire, you have to write down your goals, you have to go out of your way and do the things that you weren't doing before every single day, and then soon it will turn into a new habit that you have. So for you, it might be optimizing your listing the way we've talked about it in the in the retreat, right? It might be doing one change every single day, and then you do that for 60 days straight, and then it turns into a new habit, right? Then it might mean taking the time to respond to the comments in a very specific way, where you're highlighting the your midterm rental listing insights, where you're saying, thank you so much for visiting us. We specialize in being midterm rental host and helping you with your temporary stays. Thank you so much for coming with us. You're always welcome to come back and return with your pet friendly friends, your furry friends, I should say, not pet friendly friends, your furry friends, and stay with us at any time. We love to host large families and give flexible terms. Like, that might be a thing that you bake into a new habit where you have to do it all the time, train someone else to do it all the time, etc. Right? And then that becomes a new part of your reality, a new part of your experiments over and over again until it becomes a habit, right?
Experiment Nation, you've heard the word MTR, midterm rentals, as it is currently a hot topic and hot commodity right now, because again, there has been an increase in short-term rental regulations, and there also has been let's face it, a slowdown in what we were experiencing a couple years back when it comes to bookings. So, with that said, short term rental operators are looking for alternative solutions to tap into the midterm rental space. However, there is a space, there is a sub niche of midterm rental insurance that I'm truly excited about, that I want to share with you, that the experience that we've had, the tremendous results we've been able to have, and that's the insurance midterm rental space, which is very different than your traditional midterm rentals. When you think of traditionally midterm rentals, you think of travel nurses. There is a space, midterm rental insurance space, that we've tapped in, where you need to be well connected with insurance and relocation specialists and companies and understand the right type of asset required for you to be able to help these families. What's really important, that stands out the most, which you can get in what I'm about to offer you, is the understanding where to be found by these insurance companies, how to properly manage your calendar so that your listings are optimized so that they can find you, how to actually gain traction and build a relationship with these relocation insurance companies. I've put together an MTR insurance blueprint. That's double MT triple R insurance blueprint to cover these foundations after we've had success landing very large contracts on single family homes that literally 4x what we traditionally make in long-term rentals, and also gives us peace of mind because there's less turnover and 100% occupancy, because these contracts can start anywhere from 30 days to 3 months to 8 months and range anywhere from, again, we've landed anywhere from $8,000 to $9,000 a month in per month on a single family home property, which our mortgages are typically around the 2,400 range, which then gives you a large spread of anywhere from 4 to 6K net on just one property. And this is why it's very hot right now. But people who haven't been in the lab with individuals like myself, like Jesse Vasquez and Dr. Rachel Gainsbrugh and Noble Crawford, don't have the foundations and don't know exactly where to start. And therefore, this is why I'm giving you guys a blueprint, the MTRR insurance blueprint. Go to the website, experimentrealestate.com, and get yourself a blueprint to completely change, or at least have a plan B if you're a short-term rental operator looking to maximize your occupancy and profitability. We'll see you on the other side.
So one hack that you can do and that I talked about is focusing on the who and not the how, right? Because if you can't change your habit, you need to think about, well, first of all, you can, but let's say you wanted to just 10x that and you say, it's going to be pretty hard for me to do that because I know this is not my zone of genius. Then you need to start thinking about the who. And I've been talking about the who, not how for a minute now. The reason it's critical because the who is going to, 10x your paradigm shift, right? How many paradigm shifts do you think you can do per month, right? Typically it's unlimited, but realistically it does take some time to implement these paradigm shifts. So one way I like to think of hacking is asking who, right? Who would be the person who would be able to help me, right? Help me with these new habits, these new goals, these new insights that I need to implement, right? I like to think about that right away because I know it's going to take. I understand how my coding works. I understand that software update is not as easy as the phone where I could just do an upload overnight and it's going to be different. I know that it takes time to implement a paradigm shift. So while I want to do a paradigm shift at the visionary level where you want to be the person who has a paradigm shift where this is a new opportunity that I want to have my new lens on. The implementation of that does not always have to be you, and it should not be you. The implementation of that paradigm shift should then involve others, specialists, right? So one might be like, wow, I learned something from this conference and I know I now need to design my midterm rentals this way. Well, I know that that's going to be a very big challenge and hurdle for me to overcome because it's not in my paradigm right now to design. I don't see things the way a designer sees things. While I can try to flex the muscle and continue to read an article or take an action a certain way on design, I know that it's going to be a heavy lift. Therefore, who could I hire? Well, maybe it's a designer, right? We were just at the retreat. Shout out to Amy Power. She's one of the designers on our team, right? Why don't you reach out to Amy? Right? right? Or you know that there's your bookkeeping is poor, or you don't have a good CPA, and we're not asking you to be a CPA, right? Think about who. Don't mess around with taxes. Get the professional, right? You want to get some insight and see how you can optimize your listings, and you want to get guidance and coaching. Do it with someone who's already doing it, right? Hire someone like me to help you, right, as your coach, right? Like, these are things we need to start thinking about the who, not how, and not how can I, right? That was one of the my TEDx talks that I had, how to get more 24 hours in one day, that I mentioned. Um, is is that was the entire theme of the conversation, is stop asking how can I and start asking who, right? What would need to be true in order for you to make your dreams come true? Think of the who, right? Think of the who, right? And then that will help along the way. So when I think of the coding, I think, okay, great. Let's let's rewire my paradigm, right? But let's do it at the visionary level so that I'm very clear on what we're optimizing for. So now when I'm delegating tasks, I'm thinking of who, and the who is implementing the change in the direction of our paradigm. That is how you tactically change very quickly, right? That's how I do it, at least, right? I record a video. I give some gems that I'm willing to give here on the air for sure. Is I did this in person. I think they loved it at the retreat. Is anytime I think of an idea that needs to be implemented, it's not, sorry, I shouldn't say think of an idea. Anytime I get an insight, which I did at the time, I recorded a video from the retreat and I said, hey, such and such on my team, can you please start doing this moving forward? This is how you do it. Please confirm that you receive receipt. I record the video, I show them the process, and now it will be included in the workflow. That is how quickly you can take information into implementation. And that is critical. And so if you haven't already listened to my episode with I'll actually pull it up here so I can give you the episode number. But I got a chance to interview the founder of onlinejobs.ph. And it was just a phenomenal episode because we talked a lot about the ability to hire additional help, which, sometimes a lot of us are, you know, too busy, or the reality is it's a lot. And we think we need a full-time person on a $60,000 salary, but the truth is you can actually get help for $200 a month. Uh, one VA away to build your virtual team, in operation and empire. So that's episode number 175. If you never listened to it, it's onlinejobs.ph, the founder of onlinejobs.ph, John Jonah. I got a chance to interview him. He's the CEO founder. And we had it was one of my favorite interviews. And I think it's so critical when we go to these conferences and we do have a paradigm shift. We need to understand how challenging it is for the brain to adopt these new beliefs and be able to implement the who in order for us to start executing quickly, because there is speed in execution, right? There is speed in execution. So I wanted to highlight one of the talks I had, which is, you know, what is a paradigm? Um, and then I wanted to also, when we talked about the conscious mind, subconscious mind, so just to bring a point home, like, our conscious mind is, you're very aware, right? You can think, you have these ideas, these thoughts, they're there, right? And if you ever get a chance to do this, had this exercise done, is take out a piece of paper and draw two circles, right? One is the main circle. You do one circle, it's almost like a stick figure, and then you draw a body, and then on the body part, that's the stick, typically is a stick, you draw a second circle, right? So that first circle at the top, right? And this, if you know, by the way, if you're a Bob Proctor like student, he's done this. This is how to, define what your mind looks like. And a lot of people haven't seen what your mind looks like, so therefore it's very hard to talk about it. But it's one of the most critical and most important things that you need to know how it works. And so we got a chance to do that during the retreat, and I want you to get a chance to do this, right? If you're driving, you'll do this later. If you're currently listening, take out a piece of paper and draw a circle, then draw a stick figure, and then at the bottom portion, draw another circle. So now you have two circles. The big circle at the top is your mind. You want to take a line, horizontal line, and divide it by two, right? You draw a line right across that circle. And the top half is the conscious mind, and the bottom half of the subconscious mind. And the way it works is, And then the second circle at the bottom is your body. The way it works is you have thoughts, right? You can see, smell, hear, touch, taste. That's your conscious mind. You can control that, right? You smell it, you touch it, you taste it, you see it, right? You listen to podcasts, you go in person, you shake hands, you're touching, right? You're shaking someone's hand, you can taste food. These are all things that you can control, right? So you're consciously controlling the thoughts, the information, the books that you read, the podcasts you're listening to, etc., right? But then it needs to get into the subconscious mind, and that's the one that's the feelings that you get, the habit that we talked about, right? And the habits will lead into the actions that you take, right? Like 90% of them, because it's your body's on autopilot. So it doesn't want to have to think. You don't think about walking. You don't think about eating. You don't think about brushing your teeth. You don't think about, when there's some things that you don't even think about when you look at real estate anymore, because it's breaching your subconscious mind. That's why experts sometimes you're like, how are they so good at this? They're not even, whether you're a NASCAR driver, a Formula One driver, or you can ice hockey, you can ice skate, you're skating backwards, what looks, so complicated to someone who's never done it before. They do it in their sleep. That's because it's now part of their subconscious mind. They've wired it into their brain. The exact same way you can wire into your subconscious mind how to look into a really good deal, how to sense a really good deal. It's not that you could just sense it, it's that you've looked at 1,000 and now you can do it in your sleep. That's called mastery. And in order for us to rewire our mastery, if we weren't born with it, none of us was born with it, but each of us can learn a brand new skill. It is those things that have to turn into repetition. And repetition over time turns into habits, and habits over time turns into actions, and actions leads to results, right? In order for you to maximize that, you first need to change the amount of information that you're consciously getting into your mind consciously until it becomes subconscious, and then you can take action. So part of that might be, well, Ruben, how do I, these midterm rental insurance deals, how do I even foster the relationships, how do I get access, all these questions that you have, um it's all new information to you. So it's normal that you're not sure, it's normal that you don't believe, but then it turns into subconsciously that someone were to ask you, do you believe that you can walk, do you believe that you can run, you would say, yes, 100%. Of course I can, because I've done it 1,000 times before. It's the same thing with getting deals. It's the same thing with doing anything you want in your life. But it has to start with repetition, and has to start with the new information, and then it has to start with implementation. And yes, sometimes it does help to have the belief to, not sometimes, always, the belief to do it, the belief that it works, because it will work if you do the work. But you need that confidence to do that work when you see someone else who's doing it as well. That helps. That's why it's good to get a coach. That's why it's good to get a mentor. That's why it's good to be in a like-minded environment, right? Those are the things that are so critical, that if you just go to a conference and you just go there and you sit, you go to retreat, you get new information, you don't do anything with it, you don't go home and implement, it will be a waste of time and useless. So that is why I focused my talk on the opening day for the VIPs on that specific topic. And for those of you who've seen or following me on Instagram at the Real Estate Experiment, I've been very big on right now. Just I'm listening to Change Your Paradigm, Change Your Life by Bob Proctor. Listen to it. Listen to that Audible, because all these things, all this information, if we had an information problem, uh, I think there's a thing that says, like, if all libraries would have a six pack to be wealthy, if it was that, if the information was issue. It's not that we don't know how to get fit. It's just the person that we need to become to get fit, is the paradigm's not there. That's why you go back to your old habits, because the paradigm, the belief, the subconscious mind is not there. You need to shift and rewire that in order for you to get the results, right? So that's why we don't get the results when we think we ought to get the results, and we think we know. It's not enough to know. You have to act, you have to repeat, rinse, repeat, to continue to get those results. So that's why that was very important, because it doesn't matter, you can be sitting in the room with, doesn't matter who. It'll be one part of the thought, but, or the action, etc., the input, but internally the work needs to be done regardless. That's why there's no shortcut. And that's also why, if you notice, a lot of people can lose everything who've gotten it before can get it all back, because their paradigm is different than the person who's never gotten there. Crazy. So with that said, if you want to continue to change your paradigm, stay tuned. Obviously, you're here, you're subscribed. Get the midterm rental insurance blueprint, because I am trying to help you shift your paradigm in those newsletters. And I'm also making myself accessible to you by I'm going to be doing a lot more webinars. I have a one that's coming up. Depending on when you're listening to this, it'll be in the bio. I'm going to always have a bunch coming up. I want to keep these episodes evergreen, so I won't drop the date. But if you're listening to this right now and just launched, there's going to be one a week from now, September 11th, as we're recording this, 2023. But we're going to continue to have more. Make sure you join those free webinars because I want to get through, those mind blocks, roadblocks, and I want to help you. Obviously, give you the new information that can be executed. And I want to show you how to do that. And obviously, I want to give an opportunity for those who do want to continue to come to these retreats. We're going to have another one in Destin, Florida, towards end of the year, Q4. So stay tuned for that because we'll have that announced. But that's going to be exciting to continue to grow and do retreats. For those who are in my coaching group, we're going to continue to have a lot of our coaching Q&As. For those of you who are interested, just book a discovery call. It's application only. So you'll have to get on a discovery call before you can join. There's nowhere else you can find the link. And so I encourage you to do that because that's how I got here, through coaching, through learning, through experimenting, through interviewing, through reading, through proximity. That's my thing. Proximity. You got to be close. If someone has something that you want, get close to them, get insights, and then execute. So with that said, I just want to show you, give you the chance to understand how to recode your paradigm. Tap into these resources. It's just very important that we understand that. It's very important that we rinse and repeat. Experiment, fail, learn, repeat. You guys who are here in the lab with me, you can see it over my right shoulder. Very important to do that, right? That's the only way to change your paradigm. And with that said, the new information is here, right? And I want to continue to share that information with you guys, but I want to at least give you an insight as to what my talk was about. And then there'll be plenty more gems from this, from this retreat. My goodness, we talked about tax strategy, we talked about midterm rental tacticals, building a team, fostering a relationship, and we gave a sneak peek, never done before, to the midterm rental insurance network, which will be live in the next couple days. Go to midtermrentalinsurancenetwork.com. Again, we've revamped the entire network. We had launched a beta, and we got a lot of feedback, and now we are ready to go. We worked so hard. Shout out to the Boostly team on putting together a website that all of our relocation specialists will go to in order to see the homes that we own in our portfolio, along with those of our students nationwide. And we're very excited to build essentially an OTA that is midterm rental insurance driven only, so that we can maximize the amount of inventory that we can present to these relocation companies so that they continue to come to us, right? We can do it individually, but there's strength in numbers of being able to say, this is where all of us who understand what you need from an inventory perspective, from a calendar flexibility perspective, from a contract perspective, come here to the midterm rental insurance network.com to find inventory of all of our partners, students, and book away, right? And know that there's charged at a premium. And the way it's going to work, the perks that you get from being in this network, it's a monthly membership. Your property gets featured. Right now, we're limiting it to 2 properties. It gets featured on our website. You also have a Q&A call with myself individually, Q&A call with Dr. Rachel Gainsbrugh, and then a subject matter expert that comes every single month to help you in your journey, because our goal is to make sure that you are getting these midterm rental insurance booked, whether it's with us or without us, right? So, but without us, it means you're doing it on your own and you've learned, hopefully through the education, the free education we're able to provide, or sometimes through one of our paid workshops, and or being part of the membership, you actually get a deal through the network by having a relocation specialist reach out to us. But our goal is to give you the tools as well, so that we want you to get a booking, period, right? And whether that's with us or without us, we want to give you all the tools and the opportunity to do so. So that's why we put this midterm rental insurance network together. And of course, the benefit will benefit us all as a collective, including ourselves, right? Like we have our properties in on the network as well, so that if someone's going out and checking out our properties, they'll check out your properties too, or they'll go in the state where we're not in, right? And that was the entire goal, to serve them at scale. So super excited. That was one of the sneak peak teases that got a chance to tease out and or at least showcase. In addition to the mindset and a bunch of talks, my goodness, there's gonna be tons of stuff online from the weekend. Check out the recaps I've been kind of sharing here and there on my Instagram. But I'm very happy with the community that we've built and the experiments that we're doing in this space. So continue to stay tuned, recode your paradigm, upgrade your software, get new information, change your conscious thoughts so that your subconscious thoughts can change, and your repetition, your habit changes so that your actions change, so that your results can change as well. On that note, Experiment Nation, just like that, your host is here, always, Ruben Kanya, and I am officially out. Conquer the rest of your day. Cheers.
Experiment Nation, podcasting has changed the way we operate as real estate investors ourselves, and it can do the same for you. Podcasting has been the source of the masterclasses that we get thanks to the world-class real estate investors and practitioners and specialists that come into the lab from all realms, from short-term rentals to midterm rentals to real estate syndications to even software as a service. Owners, founders, entrepreneurs have helped enrich our experiments by giving us the education, helping us build a network, and lastly, and most importantly, a brand association to open up multiple doors for our respective businesses. If you understand the power that podcasting can have and you know that you need one for your brand, please, you can rely on our team. InvestedTalent.com is my team and the team that helps this podcast, the Real Estate Experiment, become the fruition each and every single week to educate my community, build relationships on the air, and continue to build our brand. If you know that you need to do the same for your brand and you haven't pulled the trigger yet, maybe because you don't know how, our company, InvestedTalent.com, does the end-to-end from the time that you record, from the time that it is published, to even repurposing content on multiple social media platforms. That's what my team can do for you. Simply go to InvestedTalent.com and book a discovery call to see how my team can help you launch your podcast.